Hi everyone, I'm your host Mathias,
I'm Lochlainn.
and welcome to a new episode of
When the drinking starts, the thinking starts.
Art from a different perspective. So take your beer, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from.
Wait, Lochlainn, cheers.
Cheers.
I'm sure we started. Wait, are you drinking Mau or Estrella?
A Mao.
Bro, you prefer Mau over Estrella?
Yeah.
That's gonna be your worst take, man. I'm not gonna lie. Well,
Okay. So basically, what we're going to be looking at today are a couple of art monuments and pieces of history that, in more recent years, have been getting more scrutiny and backlash from the public because at the time they were made with ideals or celebrating certain things that aren't in line with. For the most part, with Europe's values today, or just general European values today. And for example, this is pretty similar to during 2020, the Black Lives Matter protests in the US, whenever there was like a large backlash against Confederate statues that were still up. So this is basically a similar thing, except in Europe. And we have three objects or three pieces that we're looking at, one from Madrid, one from Ireland, and one from Belgium. So, Matthias, what did you select for yours?
right. Thank you very much, Lachlan. Well, I chose a quite important work from Belgium, my home country, which is located in the city of Ostende,
Yeah.
a relatively big city on the Belgian coast. And this is probably one of the most controversial monuments we have in the whole country. It is the statue of King Leopold II, who was the head of the Belgian state from 1865 to 1909. And this statue basically depicts Leopold on a horse above and overlooking a crowd of people. So there are some soldiers, there are women, there are Congolese people. And especially these Congolese people seem to be very, very grateful for being there, seem to be kind of adoring him as this supreme person who is much stronger and better than them.
And so, how does this fit into the general kind of theme of things that are getting more backlash, or maybe vandalized, or just not supported anymore by the public?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, Lachlan. Well, at first, the statue was meant to be a tribute to Leopold II, who is in Belgium known as the Builder King, who was known that way, at least. And this is because he was carrying out a lot of urban projects, doing many urban work. So initially, there were very, very little, or we can even say no critical voices to the statue. But in the recent years and also recent decades, with the rise of colonial and post-colonial studies, people have started uncovering and discovering what really happened in the Belgian Congo under Leopold's rule. And this was a very, very violent era where at least, according to the most recent estimates, 1 million people have died in very, very bad circumstances.
So what does it look like, the like shift in public opinion, or the kind of backlash that the statue's been receiving in the past couple of years?
Well, nowadays, as I was saying, people have been getting much more critical towards these statues of Leopold II. There is a clear shift in how he's being perceived. He went from the Builder King to basically an evil tyrant who violently exploited a whole group of people for their natural resources. And actually, one of the most interesting moments regarding the history of that statue is when in 2004 an activist cut off the left hand of one of the Congolese figures of the statue, which is a direct reference to the punishments that were carrying out in the Belgian Congo. This is, I believe, a very powerful act. So instead of throwing the statue in the river and hiding whatever this statue represented, the activists used the representation of a very, very common punishment and mutilation at the time to protest and denounce what had really happened there. So it's still up to today. It has never been restored. It still is missing a hand. And I guess it is probably because the states would probably receive too much of a backlash because of it. This topic, obviously is still very, very prevalent in modern-day Belgian politics. Well, some advocate for the complete removal of works depicting Leopold II. some...
Why hasn't it been removed yet by the Belgian state?
Yeah, it's because, as I was saying, I think it's just still too much of a controversial topic. And Belgian Congo was up till the 1960s, 1960, when Belgian Congo became independent. And even after, has still been a very, very sensitive issue. Many people, especially from the older generation, are longing back to it. So I think it is just much too controversial still.
Indeed.
But you're also bringing one?
Yeah. Good. So the statue that I've chosen is a statue of an IRA leader from Ireland called Jean Rousseau, and he was the head of the chief of staff of the IRA between 1938 and 1939, and basically he was an IRA leader, and there was a commemorative statue elected for him in Fairview Park in Dublin in 1951, and it was basically just erected to commemorate him as an IRA leader and somebody who had good ideals of a united Ireland.
And basically, what sparked this wave of opposition towards the statue then?
Yeah, so basically, in recent years, mostly in the last 20 years, there's been far more backlash to the statue. I mean, originally there was some backlash as well, but in recent years, it's shifted to be even more again. And so the reason is that it's actually been vandalized multiple times, just like the Leopold statue, since its creation. And so the reason that there is backlash in the first place against Jean Rousseau is because he went to Nazi Germany basically to seek military aid from the Nazis, and also ammunition and just general military aid and support. And obviously this is not really viewed well by many people, because some people are calling him a Nazi sympathizer, or somebody who is sympathetic to Nazi ideals because he was talking and working with them. However, the counterpoint to that is that Jean Rousseau was doing it purely for Irish ideals and just to further the cause of the IRA, whether or not you agree with them. That's why he was doing that. And even though he did that, he worked kind of with the Nazis. He was explicitly not a Nazi. They asked Jean Rousseau if he would do Nazi propaganda in Ireland, and he refused, saying that he is an Irish Republican and not an ally of Germany.
So what similarities or differences would you see between these two statues and the activists that have been carrying out these acts of protests?
I mean, the similarities between Jean Rousseau's statue and Leopold's statue, I think, one main difference is that Leopold II is a widely disliked character, and basically agreed by everybody that his actions were abhorrent and he shouldn't be celebrated at all. Whereas Jean Rousseau, his statue, it's a bit more ambiguous. Some people are saying that he was somebody you could look up to his ideals, and other people are saying that he's a Nazi sympathizer. So there's a bit more of a divide on the opinion on Jean Rousseau. But in terms of similarities to Leopold's statue, it's been vandalized. The hand was also cut off by far right groups who thought that his raised hand was supposed to be a communist salute, funnily enough. So there's disagreeing groups on both the left and the right against this statue. And also it was beheaded at one point. It was also spray painted with the LGBT flag, and it actually had to be reconstructed entirely after a certain point, and they made it into a bronze statue instead of a stone one.
Well, thank you, Lochlainn.
Yeah.
Now we'll go on to the last monument we've chosen, which is right here in Madrid. It's the Victory Arch, or the Arco de la Victoria, in Madrid, in Moncloa specifically, which has been quite controversial in recent years. It was completed in 1956, during Franco's dictatorship.
Yep.
And it was initially built to commemorate the victory of the Francoist forces during the Spanish Civil War. So there is absolutely no doubt about the political message. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
It completely glorifies the triumph of one side of the conflict over the other, and celebrates the victory of a group of people that would split the nation and leave deep wounds still up to today. So we're receiving a phone call. Yes. Oh, really? Oh, wait. I just heard that we have a man on site right next to the arch in Moncloa, so I guess we'll go to him. Go on, Lochlainn.
Hello, Mathias. We're here at the Arco de la Victoria in Moncloa, and it was built to commemorate the victory of the Francoist regime. And as you can see on top, it's 40 meters high, and there's a bronze statue with the chariot, which is an allegory for their victory. And it was more or less praising the victory of the Franco regime as this glorious victory, when actually it was an overthrow of democracy and it was a coup d'etat.
All right, very interesting, Lochlainn. Well, I was just wondering, can you tell me some more about how the civil society and how the authorities are dealing with this problem right now?
Well, Mathias, in recent years, the statue has actually been neglected up until 2024, when a judge ordered the city of Madrid to keep maintaining the statue, because up until then it wasn't being maintained, and it was kind of let fall into neglect. So even though UCM is actually owning the statue, they ceded the management role over to the city of Madrid. And as far as it goes with the public reception and opinion of the statue, Franco was obviously not a super popular guy, so a lot of people are now calling for the removal of the statue, or at least the removal of the Francoist symbols that are sitting on top of the statue. But the mayor has said that that's actually not going to happen anytime soon, so it looks like the statue is going to be staying here for the foreseeable future. And yeah, that's about it. Back to you, Mathias.
All right, thank you, Lochlainn. Thank you very much for your intervention.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So this obviously relates to the much more broad context that we have in Spain now, with how the country is dealing with the dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of days ago, the dictatorship ended, or Franco died 50 years ago, and we can still see that it is very, very, very controversial topic in the country, especially now with the rise of these revisionist voices who try to reinterpret the past differently. For example, Vox on the far right, who try to appeal to maybe some kind of electorate who can be nostalgic of this era.
So ultimately, the three examples that we looked at today, they all, even though are slightly different, they lead to one question, which is, what should we do with them? What should we do with heritage that's being challenged by more modern beliefs or European values or standards? Should we take them down, or should we just do nothing at all and just leave them there? What do you think, Mathias?
Well, that's a very good question. And first of all, I believe it's super important to stress that these monuments are all following a specific agenda. Franco's Arch of Victory and Leopold's statue both contain a very, very political message at its very core. These are not objective truths, and they do not necessarily reflect modern-day society's values.
Mm-hmm.
It is therefore, I believe, necessary to reflect on these political messages in order to grow a society, to learn from the past, to learn from mistakes that have been made, to learn from suffering. But do you have any maybe clear ideas of how this can be done?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things that we could do to kind of at least go in some sort of direction, because right now in Europe, it seems that there's no sort of like clear thought out direction on what to do with these monuments that we're not sure what to do with. So I think one thing that we could do is contextualize them, because right now we're not doing an amazing job at that. For example, the memorial in Moncloa, there's not too much signage or historical information and paneling that you can read about the arch and about the context of it, why it was built, and why it doesn't align so much with European values anymore. So that's one thing, is we could just contextualize it a bit more, basically, and have more signage around it, so that it doesn't look like we're just leaving this here to glorify it like it was 50 years ago. So and then another thing is, we can just improve education on the memorials, I think. Another thing we could do is just re-signify them. I think you mentioned this earlier. So instead of just ripping down the memorials, we can just, for example, with Franco's arch, we can just take off the pro-Franco signification on it. And for example, with Leopold, we can't really do that. I think we have to take the whole Leopold statue down, probably, because it's something that you can't re-signify, maybe. But
Indeed, there might be instances in which the removal of the whole statue, the whole heritage piece can be justified. But this is then, we have to understand that this is not meant to hide history, to erase history, to hide the past that we are ashamed of. But we are inherently, obviously we are ashamed of it, but it is important to see that these statues are showing the values that we want to put in the front as a society. And therefore, I think it would be, many people would be very happy, for example, if that statue was replaced with, for example, Patrice de Lumumba, who fought for years against an oppressor who was possessing his country, and who is maybe much more in line with the values that we currently have in our society.
One more final question is, how do you think we should define the difference between statues that should be taken down completely or ones that should be recontextualized?
That's a good question. For example, especially on the Moncloa Arch, I think it is very difficult to take it all down because it is a big, massive building. Of course, yeah. So, it depends, I think, mostly on the size, on what the person has achieved else than the stuff he is being controversial for. Yeah. So I think that these are definitely some factors we have to take into account.
Okay, interesting.
So in the end, the monuments, we cannot see them as faithful descriptions of history. They are messages that were constructed for a very precise reason, which was often to glorify or to celebrate a specific person. So this heritage and its preservation is not only about remembering the history, but also very much about the values that we want to stand behind as a society.
And so with that, we'll wrap it up. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for listening.
And we'll see you in the next podcast, which is not coming.
Next week.
Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from